Hey everybody, I'm Mike Sullivan with Born to Shine. Today we have a super rock star. Her name is Valerie Park, and she's amazing. She's been serving kiddos K through 8 for over 24 years. That's amazing. And she's a really big deal because she has a really big responsibility actually, and it makes a huge difference in kids' lives because she is the director of assessment and curriculum and Technology Act.
Yes,
Did I get that
yes,
right? Okay,
you did. Yes.
perfect. And over at Panama Buena Vista, which is in Bakersfield, California. So, Valerie,
Mhm.
thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Ah, for sure. This is great. And I know you're at Coffee Bean. So, for the
I
listeners, if
am.
you hear any wind or see Valerie's hair going in the wind, there isn't a wind machine on her hair. It's just, we're doing it all natural. So, thank you so much for being with us and making time for us in your
Of
day.
course.
So when our listeners really wanted to learn about you, Valerie, and hear your story and your experience and wisdom, so they can learn from you. So wondering what was your journey like to get to that awesome position of director of assessment and curriculum? That's a big deal.
It it is kind of a big deal. We have a lot of fun, but a lot of responsibility. If you can just indulge me for a minute, ever since I was little, I remember wanting to be an educator. I don't remember a time when I didn't want to be in education. In fact, back in the day, in the 70s, when it was sunny outside, your parents would say, get outside and go play. And I had two younger sisters, and we always played school, and I was always the teacher. So it was just something I knew I wanted to do just my whole life. And so I worked towards it. My husband and I worked several jobs between us to put me through college so that I could live out this dream. I became a teacher in the Greenfield Union School District and worked my way up. Was the BITSA coordinator, which is supports new teachers, first and second year teachers. Became an assistant principal for 2 years, and then I was a principal there for 7 years. And it really was as a principal that I developed a love for curriculum and instruction, really saw how that impacts student achievement. And while I was a principal, I earned my doctorate degree in educational leadership, and then thought, let's see if I can, put that degree to work, and applied to become a superintendent principal at Semi-Tropic School District. It's 225 students, K-8, a single school district. So let me tell you, if you want to learn what it's like to run a district, be a superintendent principal because you do everything. I didn't drive the bus because I didn't want to get a license for that, but I did just about everything else. Worked my way up and worked at a unified district, that's TK-12, for about a year and a half before I got called to Panama as their current director. The great thing about this is that I was a student in Panama when I was going to school. I was there second through eighth grade. So it's really surreal sometimes walking through the schools and saying, oh, that was Mrs. Smith's classroom when I was a second grader.
Yeah,
Or I would, act as junior high, getting to walk those.
that's
So
cool.
yeah, that's my journey and getting to where I am. Curriculum is my jam, I guess you could say. It's what I love, but I also love supporting principals throughout this process as well.
That's awesome. And it's so cool that you actually are a product of Panama, that you went there and walked down the halls and now you're running the show. So, and what's really cool, do you mind if I share screen real quick for our viewers? I want to show them your school. Is that cool?
Sure.
All
Yeah,
right, let's see if we can do
absolutely.
this. Here. So this was Panama. This was Panama Buena Vista right here, the school. That
Mhm.
was it, 11 students. Now, I think you said, Valerie, there's almost 20,000 because right here it's like 18, but this is probably older. There's almost
Yeah,
20,000
we're about
kiddos.
18,900. We'll be 20,000 in a few years. Yep.
Super cool. And it's funny you
Yeah,
did everything except drive the bus. I bet the school looks a lot different, but look, the bus looks the same. I thought that was
yes, it
hilarious, right?
does.
So yeah, that was just something
Yeah.
fun for the for the guests. But that it's a perfect example of how schools are so powerful that you were a student there and now you're running the school. That it's just so inspiring that you're doing that. And that kind of leads naturally into the second question. When you were K or pre-K through 8, like your district, did you have any challenges or struggles? Like for me, it was I was bullied relentlessly, and it started in second grade. And that really brought out more anxiety within me and depression. I didn't even understand it. And I was just, our listeners always are curious if someone, even at your level, struggled with anything when you were a kid.
Well, I did. And I think everybody does, unfortunately.
Right.
My struggles, I think, a little different, or at least it felt different to me, as it does to everyone when they go through it. So my dad is Mexican American. His whole family is from Mexico. And my mother is white, and her whole family is, well, they're from all over, but really from Kentucky area. And so growing up in the 70s, there weren't a lot of kids that had mixed racial parents. So, I had Mexican side of the family and the white side of the family. And I didn't have a lot of kids that I identified with because, as I said, there weren't a lot of mixed races when I was growing up. And you rarely saw that in literature or, talked about it. And I remember that my grandfather on my mom's side would tell me, "You're Mexican American. You be proud of that. Don't let anybody tell you can't be proud of that. That is who you are, and that's a beautiful thing." And so I remember very vividly in kindergarten, our kindergarten teacher asking us to stand up and introduce ourselves. And I stood up and said, "I'm Valerie Herrera. I'm a Mexican American, and I'm proud of it. And I'm not going to let you tell me any different," because that's what my grandfather said to say, right?
Awesome.
Consequently, my mom did get a phone call from my kindergarten teacher about that. And because she'd never really heard anything like that, you got this 5-year-old kid telling her something like this. And my mom said, "That's absolutely right. My husband's Mexican, we're white, and she is Mexican American, and we're proud of that fact." And so I always felt like I wasn't, because I didn't speak Spanish. When my grandfather came over to the States, he told his kids, my dad and his siblings, to speak English, that they needed to assimilate. So consequently, all of my cousins and I on my dad's side, none of us speak Spanish. And so growing up with kids that were from Mexico or were Hispanic, I couldn't really communicate with them. And so I didn't feel like I belonged in that crowd. Whereas with friends of mine who were white, because I, tanned a lot easier, I was darker, we had different cultural customs. I just felt like I didn't fit in for a while. Luckily, though, because of my grandfather and my parents and the supportive family, it didn't matter that much to me later on. But early on, I found myself thinking, sorry, I just dropped my earbud.
Oh yeah.
Asking God, could you, why didn't you just make me one or the other, so I could fit in better. As I got older, I really began to appreciate that I was different, that I did have two really rich cultural backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds. And so now when I work with kids, I think about that, because looking at me, you might think I am Hispanic, you might not know. And so when we look at kids, we think that we see the story just by looking at them.
Right.
And we don't. That just scratches the surface. We don't understand the pride that they bring based on their backgrounds, their language experiences, their home life, that they are more than just who they appear to be on the face. And so I try to take that with me throughout my career as being an educator, and try to be the voice of students who may not have the voice to be able to say those things, and to say it's okay to feel that you're different, because that difference is what makes us beautiful, what makes us unique.
I love that. I love that. And I was so excited about having you, Valerie, on the show. And that's like a mic drop moment right there. That we could just be done and that's it. That was awesome. So if you're watching, there you go. That was magic. It's so true. Whatever makes you different, the viewer and listener, that's what makes you beautiful. That's what makes you so special, right? Just like whatever it is that makes you feel like you don't fit in, or that you're weird or different, that's actually your superpower in disguise. That's what makes you so amazing. And you matter and the world needs you. And so anyone that's, especially like Valerie, multicultural, that's super cool. It's beautiful.
If I may, one of the things I have appreciated so much recently, for kids like me, or kids that feel that they're different, there are so many more commercials now or in TV shows that show that mixed race and that mixed family and the love that comes from that bringing together of two different cultures or three different cultures. And I'm so excited to see that for our kids these days. Because like
Beautiful.
I said, growing up, there wasn't a lot out there that you could see as your models.
Yep, absolutely agree. But whoever's listening, just like Valerie said, that's what makes you beautiful. That's what
Yes.
makes you so unique, and that's awesome. And then I guess the last question, Valerie, is what's working within your beautiful school district to support your kiddos with exactly that, their emotional well-being, their mental health? Are there certain SEL programs you have in-house, or do you bring outside people in, or what's working?
So I'm really excited and proud about this piece for Panama. About 3 years ago, my then Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services, Pam Bianchi, had a vision for what that looks like in Panama. And we call it our multi-tiered system of support.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that we have, and we still do, had kids that are struggling socially, emotionally, with their mental health, with behavior expectations, and even some students struggling with identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so she really was the instrumental force to create the system where we have school social workers. We actually have 6. We have 4 that are devoted to our higher needs schools. And then we have 2 that work with our non-Title I schools, I guess you could say. And then we have behavioral intervention assistants at every school site, as well as 4 district-wide. And they have been, especially, when Dr. Bianchi did this, we had no idea the pandemic was coming.
Right.
And so the timing was really
Perfect.
perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
it's terrible to say that, but it was perfect because our social workers were able to reach out to parents and students during last year's distance learning piece and really help our students and our families and connect them to supports and to services that they need. I know that they are continuing that work, and they have helped with risk assessments and getting food on the table and connecting parents and students to mental health services, or how to keep your lights on at the home. So really just whatever is needed. Our school social workers have just been awesome, and they're led by a really great coordinator, Tess O'Rourke Lupine, who really has been instrumental this year in getting them focused on it. But what I would say is we need more social workers. With 18,000 plus students,
Yeah.
that's a lot for 6 of them to do.
Right.
But it's a start, and I'm thrilled that that's where we are, because our kids need this and our families need it.
Absolutely. And I love so much that you said 2 things, Valerie. One, that you guys kind of had the serendipity or the grace of God to instill or install that before the pandemic, right?
Yes.
That was great. So you had, and I also love that you said it's not enough. And that's great because a lot of leaders like you are implementing the same thing, but they're realizing we need more. We need more support. Our kids are exhibiting more, and it's invisible. Like you mentioned
Yes.
earlier about someone's story, you just see their outward appearance, but we have no idea what's going on inside as far as their emotional or mental health. And the more support, the better. So I love that you said that, because that's beautiful. It shows how big your heart is and how tapped in and dialed in you are truly to your kids. And if there's any final thoughts or final recommendations or advice for either school district leaders like you, the superintendent, assistant sup, or director of curriculum and assessment, or teachers or parents or students, if there's just something on your heart that you want to share, would love to hear it.
Yeah, I thought about this question quite a bit. We were just at a state leadership assembly, and really with the hopefully the pandemic ending, as you said, it did shed a light on some of our inequities and some issues and concerns that our students and families face. And I would just encourage all school districts not to be afraid to jump in and start, because our kids need us to start now. They needed us to start yesterday. We've got to get going. Don't be afraid to pave or pound the pavement and get money, look for grants. And if you're a state official listening, give us some money so we can put social workers on every campus. Our kids deserve this. They need this. And if you're a kiddo listening, be different, be unique, enjoy it, love it, embrace it. It's what's going to make you change the world one of these days. I mean, it really is.
Love that. Valerie, thank you so much for being with us today. And I can't thank you enough for what you do. And it's obvious you love kids, and it's obvious you love working with kids, and you even pretended to be a teacher when you were a kid. Now you're living your dream. You're doing it. So thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, appreciate it. Love the opportunity. Feel blessed and honored to be a part of it.